All right, so we got a really interesting one sent in this time,
Yeah.
this YouTube discussion from
Yeah.
the Towards Eternity channel
Yeah.
with Sheikh Yasir Birja.
Okay.
And it's about this kind of fundamental question that I think a lot of people wrestle with, which is like, how do you actually choose the right person for marriage?
Okay. Yeah.
And I think we can all guess why this was sent in.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that almost all of us are either navigating in our own lives right now or have navigated in the past.
Yeah, we're curious about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like,
no.
you know, I'm not in that space, but I wonder how other people think about this.
Right.
And Sheikh Yasir offers some really interesting perspectives on all of this.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to really dig into what he had to say, pull out the practical pieces that we can all apply, and maybe even kind of challenge some assumptions we might have about love and marriage.
Yeah, and I think Sheikh Yasir's discussion is really packed full of observations that often get overlooked, you know, in our usual kind of narratives about relationships. And he offers a really grounded viewpoint.
Yeah, okay.
You know, drawing both from Islamic teachings and his own personal experiences.
Okay, so
We dive in.
let's jump right in.
Yeah.
One of the first things that he brings up that might surprise a lot of people is this idea of dating.
Okay.
And whether dating as it's kind of commonly practiced actually leads to successful marriages.
Right.
And he even goes so far as to suggest that in America, with our high divorce rates, despite all the dating, it can almost seem like dating is like exercise for divorce.
Right, and it's interesting how he kind of questions that automatic assumption.
Yeah.
That dating is the best way or the only way to find a spouse.
Yeah.
He's pointing out that, you know, societies where dating is really prevalent, we also see, you know, kind of these really high rates of marriage breakdown.
Yeah.
So it raises this question of if the goal is a lasting partnership,
Right.
is the current model, you know, of dating, which often, you know, can be quite casual and prolonged, is that actually the most effective way?
Right.
And he almost frames it as like a system, like an industry, and kind of questions whether its primary focus is actually about, you know, creating successful matches.
And the alternative that he touches on, you know, starting with word of mouth and family connections and then having more formal interviews and conversations.
Right.
That's a very different landscape for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what's the underlying principle there?
So it kind of shifts the emphasis from individual attraction as like the sole starting point to a more kind of community-involved process. So there's a built-in layer of kind of vetting and shared knowledge. You know, families often have a vested interest in the well-being of their members. So their involvement can bring a different kind of perspective and support from the very beginning.
And I think it's really interesting for us to think about what are the pros and cons of these different approaches based on like our own
You know, cultural backgrounds and experiences.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another really relatable point that he brought up is this whole search for the perfect person.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that never-ending checklist that we can sometimes have. He even jokes that if this perfect person existed, he'd want to marry them himself.
Yeah.
What's the key takeaway from that little bit of humor?
So I think the humor really drives home the unrealistic nature of this pursuit. You know, the core insight here is that perfect is an illusion. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, you know? Someone might tick all your boxes on paper, great family, good job. But their individual personality might not actually mesh well with yours. Or someone with excellent character might come from a different socioeconomic background than you envisioned.
Exactly.
You know, so it highlights that compatibility is complex and rarely found in this kind of single flawless package. So the takeaway, I think, is to let go of this fantasy of perfection.
And focus on realistic compatibility.
And he introduces this idea from the Quran, the concept of humans being created into qabd. And for someone who might not be familiar with that, what does that mean? And how does it relate to marriage?
So qabd refers to a state of struggle and hardship and testing that's inherent in the human experience. And Sheikh Yasir uses this concept to kind of reframe our expectations about marriage instead of viewing it as this guaranteed fairy tale of effortless happiness. It acknowledges that marriage, like life itself, will have its challenges. This doesn't mean it can't be beautiful and fulfilling. But it prepares us for the reality that, you know, difficulties are normal. So the key shift then becomes not finding someone who will prevent all struggles,
Right.
but finding someone you are equipped to navigate those struggles with.
Okay, so that leads perfectly into his distinction between the perfect one and the
Yes.
right one. Perfect being this kind of abstract ideal.
Right.
And right being what exactly, in his view?
Exactly. Perfection is this moving target.
Mm-hmm.
It's a subjective ideal.
Yeah.
The right person, on the other hand, is someone who is right for you
Right.
in your specific context, with your values, your needs, and your aspirations.
Okay.
It's about finding someone who complements you,
Yeah.
who supports your growth,
Yeah.
and with whom you can build a life together.
Yeah.
Imperfections and all that.
So how do you even begin to identify the right one?
Yeah, that's the question.
His first piece of advice there was pretty direct. He said, "Would you marry you?"
Right.
What's the value in that self-reflective question?
I think it forces a crucial level of self-awareness. Before you can realistically assess a potential partner, you need to assess yourself.
Yeah.
Are you embodying the qualities that you seek in someone else? Are you a kind and respectful and responsible person?
Right.
If you were the opposite gender version of yourself,
Yeah.
would you find yourself to be a desirable spouse? So it's about holding yourself to a similar standard as the one you're applying to others.
Okay. And then he moves into the often delicate area of religiosity, this common desire to find someone more religious as a way to improve oneself. But he offers a word of caution there.
Yeah, this is a really insightful point about having realistic expectations. While it's natural to want to grow in your faith, seeking someone significantly more devout solely as a means of personal transformation can be problematic. Sheikh Yasser suggests that such a person is likely seeking a partner who is on a similar or even higher level of religious commitment. The most successful partnerships often involve individuals who are on a similar spiritual journey where they can support and encourage each other's growth.
Yeah.
And this principle, it often extends to other areas like education and socioeconomic status, where shared foundations can contribute to greater understanding and fewer potential conflicts.
Let's talk about the whole falling in love narrative.
Okay.
The Sheikh definitely offers a counterpoint to the heavily romanticized version that we often see in movies and TV.
Yeah.
He even points out the divorce rates among celebrities who portray these fairy tale romances. What's his core message about love in the context of marriage?
His message isn't that love isn't important, but rather that it's not the only crucial element.
Okay.
And perhaps not even the most stable foundation on its own.
Yeah.
He brings in a broader Islamic perspective, referencing Surah Ar-Rum.
Right.
That's a chapter in the Quran, which speaks about peace and tranquility being among the primary purposes of marriage, fostered by love and mercy.
Okay.
So while love is a gift, the deeper goals of a marriage involve a sense of stability and comfort and mutual compassion.
And he makes this really interesting point about how love itself isn't static, it changes and evolves within a relationship over time, especially when you consider things like having children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The intense, passionate love you might feel at the beginning can transform into a deeper, more companionate love as you build a life and face challenges together.
Yeah.
He also emphasizes that relationships can thrive on qualities like mercy and respect and compassion, even if the initial fiery passion isn't always present.
Right.
The anecdote he shares about Omar questioning, whether all homes are built on love, highlights that enduring partnerships are often built on a more solid foundation of mutual respect and commitment.
A listener actually submitted a question about this whole idea of navigating conflicting criteria.
Okay.
When looking for a spouse, like what percentage of your must-haves should be met?
Yeah.
And the Sheikh's answer was quite insightful.
He basically said there's no magic number.
Right.
It's not about ticking off a certain percentage of boxes on a list.
Yeah.
It really depends on your individual circumstances, your values, your priorities. What might be a non-negotiable for one person could be less important for another.
Yeah.
He used the example from Hadith, which are narrations about the Prophet Muhammad's life and teachings.
Right.
About Jabir ibn Abdullah choosing to marry an older, experienced woman. His specific circumstance, needing someone to help care for his sisters, guided his decision.
Right.
So it shows that the best choice is often context dependent.
He also touches on how cultural differences, even if they seem like a small factor on a checklist, can actually be a huge consideration for some individuals. Right. So why is that?
Cultural compatibility can impact so many aspects of daily life, from communication styles and family expectations to traditions and values. While not everyone will prioritize it to the same degree, for some, shared cultural understanding contribute significantly to harmony and a sense of belonging within the marriage and with extended family.
Now let's talk about the first meeting with a potential spouse and that pressure to have that love at first sight moment.
Oh, yeah.
The sheikh identifies this as a real issue, in our current environment. He links it to this culture of abundance.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So his point about the culture of abundance is really interesting. In a world where we're constantly presented with numerous options, it can lead to this feeling that there's always someone better out there.
Right.
So this can create a pressure for instant, intense connection in a first meeting.
Yeah.
And if that spark isn't there, people might quickly move on to the next option.
Right.
So he suggests that this constant searching and comparing can actually hinder the process of finding a compatible partner.
So instead of looking for fireworks, what does he suggest we should be focusing on?
Right. So he advises shifting the focus from this intense, immediate love to simply feeling comfortable with the person.
Okay.
Can you envision them as a potential life partner?
Right.
Perhaps even as a parent to your future children.
Yeah.
If you reach a level of comfort and don't have any immediate red flags, he suggests that's a good indication to move forward and explore further. It's a much more grounded and less emotionally driven initial assessment.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He then lays out some key principles for these premarital meetings.
Right.
What are the core qualities that he emphasizes?
So he stresses that the foundational qualities to look for are deen, which refers to one's religious commitment and practice, and akhlaq, which encompasses manners, ethics, and character. He emphasizes seeking someone who is on a similar level of religious understanding and practice as, as this fosters mutual growth and shared values.
Right.
These are presented as the non-negotiables, the bedrock of a strong and righteous partnership.
And then he mentions secondary qualities like age, beauty, race, job, and education.
Right.
How should we approach these?
So these are presented as preferences, and their level of importance will vary from person to person.
Right.
While you might have preferences in these areas, it's crucial to recognize that they are secondary to the core qualities of faith and character.
Right.
Being too fixated on these external factors can sometimes lead you to overlook more essential aspects of compatibility.
He also highlights personality compatibility, like being introverted or extroverted, having similar energy levels, and importantly, having a shared vision for the marriage itself. What does that entail?
So a shared vision encompasses your fundamental understanding of the roles and responsibilities within a marriage.
Yeah.
Your goals for the future, like raising children, and even practical aspects like financial management. Discussing these things openly and honestly early on helps ensure that you and your potential partner are on the same page and have compatible expectations for your life together.
Right.
Misalignment in these areas can be a source of significant conflict down the line.
And of course, he touches on the Islamic guidelines for these initial meetings, like avoiding being alone together, involving family.
Right.
What's the wisdom behind those guidelines?
So these guidelines aim to maintain a sense of propriety and accountability and to foster barakah, which can be understood as blessings and divine favor in the relationship from the very beginning.
Right.
Involving family provides a support system and helps ensure that the process remains within ethical and religious boundaries. Moving towards more committed intention of marriage rather than just casual interactions. He outlines kind of a progression, initial interest involving family. Then potentially phone or text communication.
Right.
And if meeting in person, having a family member present until the marriage contract or nikah is finalized.
Okay, now let's delve into the decision-making process itself. He says the initial decision often happens very quickly, like a split-second feeling,
Right.
and the rest is mental justification.
Yeah.
That's a really surprising take.
It speaks to the role of intuition in our decision-making,
Yeah.
but also to our human tendency to rationalize our feelings.
Right.
The analogy he uses of buying something in a store is quite apt. You know, we're often drawn to something emotionally first,
Right.
and then we construct the logical reasons why it's a good choice. So this suggests that, you know, while it's important to be thoughtful and consider all aspects, sometimes that initial gut feeling can be quite telling.
And he cautions against meeting too many people or having endless meetings.
Right.
Why is that?
So he warns that excessive exposure to potential partners can lead to analysis paralysis.
Right.
You become overwhelmed with options and you start constantly comparing, always wondering if there's someone better out there.
Yeah.
And this can actually decrease your chances of making a decision.
Right.
As you become less satisfied with any one individual.
Right.
And more focused on potential alternatives.
So it goes back to the idea that, like, having too much choice can sometimes be detrimental. What about those situations where your heart and your mind seem to be pulling in different directions?
Right.
He offers some guidance there as well.
Yeah, so he says if your heart is drawn to someone, but there are significant practical obstacles, job issues, visa problems, it's crucial to actually listen to your mind and address those circumstances. Sometimes love isn't enough to overcome serious practical challenges. Conversely, if everything seems right on paper, good circumstances, but your heart just isn't there. He suggests considering if there's a sense of acceptance or kabul. You know, he believes that love can potentially develop over time in the right circumstances, even without an initial intense spark.
Family opposition can be a really difficult issue to deal with.
Yeah, definitely.
What's his general advice on that?
His general advice is to try and avoid going against the wishes of your family. You know, emphasizing the importance of family support in the long run. He suggests making an effort to bring your family around to accepting your choice. However, he does make a crucial exception. If the family's criteria fundamentally conflict with core Islamic values, deen and akhlaq, you prioritize, then you may need to stand firm in your principles.
So let's talk about dealing with bad habits. And a potential spouse. His perspective seems quite firm there.
He is very direct on this point. Marriage is not a magical cure for bad habits. If someone has a history of problematic behavior, it's highly likely to continue after marriage. Promises to change should be viewed with skepticism. He emphasizes that a genuine commitment to change needs to happen before marriage, especially when it comes to serious issues like addiction or anything that is Islamically forbidden or haram. You know, habits are deeply ingrained and difficult to break, often requiring significant effort and support.
He also shares his own personal experience with marriage, which was arranged by his mother in a relatively short time frame. What are the key takeaways from his story?
So I think his story provides a real-life example of a different approach to finding a spouse, married for 26 years.
Wow.
After a simple process initiated by his mother,
Yeah.
he emphasizes the ease and simplicity of it.
Right.
You know, he challenges the notion that extensive premarital relationships are a guarantee of success, pointing to the failures of dating despite intimacy.
Right.
He even shares an interesting anecdote
Yeah.
about students in Muslim student associations who sometimes don't marry within their close-knit circles
Okay.
because they know too much about each other,
Right.
leading to a lack of romantic attraction.
So interesting.
So his key point is that knowing enough about someone's decency, religious commitment, good character and reputation,
Right.
while accepting an element of the unknown, can be a successful path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, he offers some really broad insights on marriage itself.
Yeah.
How does he describe it?
He beautifully describes marriage as a portrait created by two artists
Okay.
who need to coordinate their efforts,
Yeah.
requiring love, mercy, forgiveness, and flexibility.
Wow.
He also emphasizes that marriage is a test
Right.
with its share of ups and downs,
Yeah.
and that its true beauty is often appreciated in retrospect after many years of navigating life together. You know, it's a mature and realistic view of marriage as an ongoing journey that requires effort and commitment from both partners.
So for me, the core insights from this deep dive with Sheikh Yassir seem to be the real importance of self-awareness, like really understanding what you truly need and value in a partner.
Right.
Having realistic expectations.
Yeah.
Letting go of this myth of a perfect person.
Uh-huh.
Prioritizing those foundational qualities like character and faith.
Right.
Recognizing that love is dynamic.
Yeah.
It's not the sole determinant of a successful marriage.
Uh-huh.
And being mindful of the potential pitfalls of overanalyzing or solely relying on romantic ideals.
Right.
It seems to be about shifting your focus
from
searching for that elusive perfect partner to identifying someone who is truly the right fit.
Right.
For you in your life.
And this deep dive really prompts you to reflect on the balance you're striking between your ideal criteria and the essential qualities that build a lasting and peaceful partnership. Are you perhaps giving too much weight to abstract notions of perfection over the grounded realities of genuine compatibility and mutual growth? And what subtler signals of comfort and connection might be more meaningful indicators of a good match than the often fleeting intensity of instant chemistry. Exploring Sheikh Yassir's perspective offers a valuable alternative lens through which to consider your own journey in seeking a life partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So much to think about there.
Definitely.
And thanks as always for sending in these amazing deep dives.
Yeah, keep them coming.
We will see all of you next time.
See you later.
Bye.